Welcome to my channel. This is the fastest way for Moscow to risk its status as a global superpower. 1,200 hours in the Strait of Hormuz. A violent electronic screech breaks the silence as the Russian frigate Stoichi subtly charges within just 1,500 feet of the $13 billion aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford. Inside the carrier's combat information center, alarms flash red. Radar signals are jammed. GPS signals vanish in a cyber blackout. On the horizon, nearly 50 Iranian fast attack boats surge toward the American strike group like a swarm of hornets. If a collision happens here between Russian steel and the most powerful American warship, the global energy market could collapse before the first body hits the water. Nearly 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. By early 2026, rising tensions have turned this narrow waterway into one of the most dangerous geopolitical flashpoints on Earth. Russia wants to create pressure away from Ukraine, while Iran uses its strategic position to challenge international sanctions. 1,215 hours. The Russian frigate suddenly banks closer to Ford and activates powerful radar jammers, flooding the air with electromagnetic noise. The goal is simple: blind the carrier's Aegis defense system and force the American giant to react. But the U.S. Navy does not blink. The Ford instantly switches to MCAN Alpha. Every radar shuts down. Every radio transmission stops. The world's most advanced aircraft carrier disappears from the electromagnetic spectrum like a ghost. But disappearing does not mean blindness. Instead of radar, the crew activates high-definition infrared and thermal sensors, detecting the exact heat signature of the Russian ship's engines and even the movement of sailors on its bridge. While the Russian crew believes the American carrier is blind, the U.S. Navy is quietly watching everything. 1,230 hours. From the Iranian coastline, the next phase begins. 50 IRGC Zulfiqar fast attack boats burst from hidden coastal inlets, racing across the water at nearly 70 knots. But they do not charge directly at the fleet. Instead, they weave between massive oil supertankers moving to the strait, turning the global energy supply into a living shield. If the U.S. Navy fires heavy weapons, the risk of destroying a tanker could trigger an environmental disaster and send global oil prices into chaos. High above the tension at 35,000 feet, a Russian Tu-95 Bear bomber circles the region carrying long-range cruise missiles. Now the trap seems complete. If the Navy focuses on the bomber, the swarm attacks below. If they focus on the boats, missiles could come from the sky. 1,300 hours. Then the cyber attack begins. Russian and Iranian cyber units launch a powerful GPS spoofing operation, feeding false coordinates into American navigation systems. On digital displays, everything appears perfectly aligned. But in reality, an Arleigh Burke destroyer is drifting toward a massive 300,000-ton oil tanker. On the bridge, sailors suddenly see a towering wall of steel emerging through the fog. Collision alarms scream. The crew has only seconds to react. Instead of trusting the satellite data, the Navy switches to inertial navigation, using ring laser gyroscopes that track the Earth's rotation itself. The destroyer performs a violent emergency turn and narrowly avoids the tanker by barely 50 feet. Russia tried to create a digital illusion, but physics cannot be hacked. 1,330 hours. Realizing their cyber attack failed, Russian advisors activate a backup plan. The Iranian boats switch to a low-frequency mesh communication network, bouncing signals off coastal cliffs to avoid traditional jamming. But the United States has already prepared its response. Two EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft enter the region from the USS Abraham Lincoln. Instead of simply blasting radio noise, the Growlers use advanced cognitive electronic warfare systems that identify the exact pattern of the enemy signals and erase them electronically. Within 90 seconds, the entire communication network collapses. 50 fast attack boats racing across the water suddenly become blind and deaf, unable to coordinate their movements. 1,400 hours. Tension reaches the brink of open war. Washington broadcasts a final warning across every open frequency: retreat immediately or face strategic consequences. Russia and Iran hesitate, believing the United States will not risk an aircraft carrier in such a narrow and dangerous choke point. Then something unexpected happens. The ocean surface between the fleets begins to boil. Slowly, a massive black hole rises from the deep. A 560-foot Ohio-class guided missile submarine breaks the surface. It is the USS Michigan. These submarines are designed to remain invisible, but today the Navy wants it to be seen. The Michigan carries 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles capable of striking hardened missile bases and command bunkers across the region. The message is unmistakable. While Russia and Iran were focused on jamming signals and creating digital confusion above the surface, a silent predator had already taken position beneath them. 1,430 hours. The crisis ends not with explosions, but with silence. Russian and Iranian commanders suddenly announce the completion of planned regional exercises. Their ships turn around and begin moving back toward their ports. The U.S. Navy does not pursue, because the real victory was never destruction. During the entire standoff, American sensors capture valuable data on radar signatures, signal frequencies, and communication systems used by both fleets. Modern warfare is not only fought with missiles and guns, it is fought with information. And on that tense day in the Strait of Hormuz, the United States demonstrated how control of information can dominate the battlefield without firing a single shot.